there's a tag going around from DaniMystic called My Classics, and this has been just kind of fun tag to watch. And like a lot of tags, I watch them just because I love seeing other people's decks. But I have decided to tag along to this one just because there's the whole idea of the hashtag only 10 decks. This seems like this might be really kind of close to that, and so I was kind of debating whether or not I want to do that. I had decided to do this tag because I really feel that there is something a little bit different about this tag. And I felt it tonight whenever I was getting ready to shoot. I was going to shoot something else. And I just felt kind of awash, almost swamped by all the new decks I have in my collections. And I realized that the My Classics tag is about more than that. It's about the decks that whenever I get them out, they have a sense of home and comfort to me. They're not hug decks, but just old friends. And so I thought I have to do this tag. So tonight I'm going to probably be here for a little bit. I'm going to be showing off a couple of my classic decks. So these are decks that when I look at them are old reliable, but more specifically that these are the decks that I really go to, and when I hold them in my hands, I really go back to what it was like to be learning tarot, to figuring out what cards meant. This is before I realized what my tarot aesthetic was, and before I knew what I looked for in different decks. And these are the ones that kind of help shape me in how do I read the cards and what do I like in decks. So if you want to take a look at what my classic decks are, stick around. When it comes to my classic decks, this was a pretty easy couple of choices. There was some just right off the bat, and the question was where to stop at classic decks. And I think I've got 11 that I'm going to talk about. And so the first one I'm going to talk about, and none of these decks are in order. When I normally show decks, when I do walkthroughs, I like to put them in order so that way you can kind of see them, you can get them in order. There are walkthroughs of these decks. None of these decks are new. And so they're not going to be in order. So just deal with it. I'm going to show them. But the first one, and when I talked about my very, very classic deck, it's going to be the Hanson. Can you see that? Come on. The Hanson Roberts Tarot by US Games. This is the deck that drew me into tarot. But this was the deck that I saw in a book about brainstorming and about storytelling. So I got this. One thing I loved about this immediately were the watercolor images to the deck. This was very approachable, very soft. It was also a smaller size, if you're familiar with the Hanson Roberts. It is great for people to learn to shuffle a tarot deck, because a tarot deck with 78 cards can be a little bit unruly. So this was a perfect one to kind of learn with. Of course, it fits all the Waite Smith books and everything that I was learning on. I could go straight to it. It was no problem. I liked how it was also close-ups of the people in the car, so you really got to see their faces. And I think that has really stuck with me, and that when it comes to a tarot deck, to really use that, I really respond to faces, and so I love it. So this is just the this is the super glossy Italian printing, back when they printed in Italy. That's my dog. And but because I've used it so much, it doesn't stick. And this Empress card is one of my favorite cards of all time. But a lot of these images, see this lot. So I need to keep the extra card in there. I've always used extra cards, so they've always stayed in the deck for me. So, but that's the Hanson Roberts. And when it comes to my very first classic deck, it was this one. So, having had a great experience with the Hanson Roberts decks, and can we just talk about how amazing these backs are? Just top shelf. So, having fell in love with that, I then got the Universal Waite. Also, my favorite of all the Rider-Waite Smith clones. With the Mary Hanson Roberts, she colored them with the colored pencil style, so it's very similar to the Hanson Roberts, but it is Rider-Waite Smith. It was my go-to learning deck for a long time. Lots of readings were done with this deck. I mean, you know what these look like. And for a lot of people, the more dramatic colorings of the albino, the radiant Waite, were decks that were appealing to me. But for me, it was the softer colors. It really just appealed to me. And so when I think of the Rider-Waite images, these are the ones I think of. So this is the Rider-Waite to me, even though it's officially the Universal Waite. Again, I also really love these bags. So these two kind of go together. When I talk about my classic decks, they're going to be kind of in pairs because either they really relate to each other in one sense, or they were basically came into my life kind of at the same time. So that's the Mary Hanson Roberts and the Universal Waite, which are great. So as I put those away, I got those, I would say, I really started reading tarot again back in, I'd say, like 2003, 2004. And so those were the decks I got. Then I discovered the internet, and Amazon was just kind of a whole thing, and eBay. And so in 2005, I got the Archeon Tarot by Timothy Lance. And I also got my Revelations Tarot by Zach Wong. And this is US Games, and this is Llewellyn. Both these are still in print. And so these are two very different decks. So I'm going to talk about the Archeon first. I was immediately drawn to. I think I'm gonna make the call that for the most part, all of my classic decks, I do love the backs. So back designs are important. So, but just the green and stuff. This is a photo collage deck, and this was a deck that really appealed to me in a lot of ways, and it really kind of it's not necessarily Rider-Waite Smith, but it was something that I could use and I can learn on. And I just love the images. And this is one of the decks I think that first taught me that I can love a deck just because I think the images are beautiful. And I know that might sound a bit revolutionary, and it is. And for anyone who's new out there and anyone who just needs to hear this, you can love a tarot deck just because you think it's nice looking. It's pretty. It doesn't have to read. You don't have to read with it. You can like a deck just because the art calls to you, and that's all right. And so this was it. This is one of those first decks for me that I just looked at it, and I could just go. I did do some readings with it, for sure. This is actually the creator. But I would get, and I would thumb through it. I would just look through it and go, just appreciate it for what it is in art. Is it a perfect deck? It is not a perfect deck. But for me, every time I pick this up, I am transported back instantly to the time when I discovered how much I love tarot art for tarot art's sake. And I love this Hierophant. There's just so much of this deck I just love. And while I would call this a dark deck, it definitely, it's a homey dark deck for me. So I got this in about 2005, and I know I ordered this from Amazon. And I want to say in the same package. So these two decks for me are essentially twins because they got delivered on the same day. The next one is Revelations Tarot. There is no deck that is probably more influential in me learning tarot than this one. This is a deck which is based on the idea of reversals. That each image has an upright and a reverse image automatically in the card. So when I was first learning tarot, I was like, hey, I want to learn reversals. Because all the books say, upright and reverse. So it's like, oh, this is the thing I need to know. And I've talked about this deck before. And so this was the first deck I ever got where I intentionally went card by card to learn the card images and the card meanings. Where I got a journal and I just worked with it. Did daily draws, worked through many different tarot notebooks and exercises, and then began to use it to read. There is some talk, and Donna Shell has talked a little bit on, she did a video recently about how does the deck read for you. And there was always that idea about whether or not decks have personality. And I firmly believe that decks have personality because art has a personality. And as you look at art, art elicits a different emotion from everybody. We could both look at the same painting and get a different feeling. The same is true with tarot cards. I think that's one reason why they work so well as a divination tool, is because of the emotions that they elicit. So, but this deck has a personality. This deck is probably was the first deck I ever had that was truly, I felt, sarcastic. And this deck, and we didn't have this term 16 years ago when I got this deck and started using it. But this deck would read me for filth. And it pulled no punches. And it wouldn't behave. It wouldn't play well. But it was so much fun, and we would have great conversations in a sense. Like when we do readings, I pulled a lot of cards into kind of mainstream, like, oh, what about this? What about this? And it would poke fun at me, but it would actually give me some good readings. Anytime I would use it for a client or like email readings, it would do amazing stuff. So that's why I love this deck. This deck has seen the battles at the age. It definitely, so you can actually see it. It definitely is showing its age, and there are times, especially like when Llewellyn just did a sale. I thought about, do I need to get a new copy? And I haven't. And this is one thing that I've really kind of learned in the last couple years. Now I have a whole deck about, it's called my tarot deck double downs, the decks that I have multiple copies of. With the exception of 2 of these decks, I don't have any backup copies. I don't. One is enough, and I have no desire to get another copy because these work perfectly. The more they show their age, the more that they become more friends, and I'm not going to get rid of them. This one, of course, was in the old Llewellyn books style, old Llewellyn book and deck style, where there was no the box. So this one lives in this bag currently. This deck has outlasted 3 bags. So this is the newest bag at 6th. And it's always with me. It's always close. So that's the Archeon Tarot and the Revelations Tarot. And why these are classics when they really read. But these are decks that took me out of the RWS system properly and taught me how to read cards initially. Good. Okay. The next 3 I'm going to talk about together is the Sacred Rose Tarot, the Fenestra Tarot, and the Tarot of Revelations. Let's talk about the Sacred Rose first. The Sacred Rose Tarot was the first tarot deck I was ever officially, and I love the backs again. It's great. Was the first deck I was ever gifted, and so it had a kind of a special place in my heart. I've never been one of those people who thought you have to be gifted your first deck. But when I was gifted, my first deck I was gifted, it's special to me, and so this is it. This is very Rider-Waite-Smith. This is the freaky tarot deck where it's all white eyes and no pupils. And so this deck is a little bit pippish. It is based on its own kind of system where the roses. And this is one of the first decks that I ever used. And kind of posted about, and this is back when I had a blog 800 years ago, it seems like. This would have been in the early 2010s, like 2010. No, it's before 2010, because this deck creator was the first one I ever met in public, in person. And And so I was talking to him because I was meeting some friends and we were at Reader Studio in 2010. And I fanboyed whenever I saw a bunch of the tarot luminaries. When I saw Mary Kay Greer for the first time, when I saw Rachel Pollack for the first time, when I saw Barbara Moore for the first time. And it was my very first tarot conference. And if you can get a chance to go to a tarot conference where you can be around a big group of tarot people, it is amazing. So I'm talking about this deck, and about how much I was studying it and how much I enjoyed it. And the creator goes, "Oh, you're the one with the blog." I'm like, "Yeah." And so it was really cool. So she was the first deck creator I ever met in person. So I still love this deck. It's a classic in so many ways. I believe it's still in print. There's been a couple of different books. But yeah, so it's a little bit, it's still Rider Waite, but it's a little bit pippish. It also kind of leans a little bit to the Thoth in a sense too. So I think this was one of the first forays into the Thoth that I had. So that's great. So that's this. And about the same time I got this is the same time that the Fenestra Tarot was released. And again, this is the glossy, U.S. Games Italian cardstock. And heavy borders. That was back when it was the whole thing. I got this deck, and I liked it. This was the first time I was ever able to look at a deck and go, I like some of it, I don't like some of it. When I thought the art wasn't as even, there's some cards that are amazing and there's some cards that are just not great. But I still pressed through. That's when I learned, like, the borders aren't the same, they should be the same. But I use this deck a lot. And this is the deck I took to my very first tarot class. When I was taking a class, I just bought this, so I took this as it. I love this High Priestess. I don't like this Tower as one of those cards. This Nine of Pentacles is such a Jean Grey from the X-Men card for me that I look at it and like, oh, it's the Dark Phoenix. So, but yeah, so I just love this deck. And I'm never gonna get rid of it. But I'm kind of looking for one card. And there's one card, and this was the first time I ever had a card in a deck that I went, no. Of course it's going to be on the bottom, because it always is. Because I didn't prepare this. I love this 4. Yeah, I'm not crazy about the Strength card, because the face looks a little too human. The Death card I wasn't super crazy about. Where is it? Okay. This one, the Chariot card. With the Charioteer driving 2 women as the Sphinxes, I was completely turned off. Completely just like, nope. And so I was really shocked to find out that this deck creator was a woman. So, it didn't stop me from using the deck, but this was a deck that really taught me, it's okay to not like a card in a deck and still use it. It's okay that everything doesn't have to be perfect. And I love these backs. This is the Tarot of Reflections. I've talked a little bit about this before, and this was a deck that taught me how to read for others. Los Scarabeo, I have trimmed off the borders, and I thought that this deck was going to be a little bit like my Revelations, because when you kind of see there's a reflection idea going on with it. So that way I thought, oh, well, you can kind of get it reversed, but you really can't. So it became the own thing. So this deck is also a deck that's got some really uneven art. Like, these are fine, but when it comes to this 4 of Pentacles, 4 of Coins, I love this image. The artwork seems more detailed, more dramatic, more on the point. So I love it. So I'm just going to kind of leave that until I get to some other ones. The rest are just kind of fine. Again, I love this Magician card. I thought it was perfect. It was really good. But these, but then you have some odd creatures, odd people, which is fine. It kind of took me out of it, but I liked it. I love this 10 of Swords. This 6 of Swords, obviously Rider Waite Smith. but it was weird enough that I was like, I got it so I could use it. These look similar, right? Like the High Priestess and the Magician, they look really similar. But for some reason, I really like the Magician, but wasn't crazy about the High Priestess. The Lovers is okay. But this Hanged Man, I loved it. I loved it. The Devil's fine. I did like this Page of Cups. But then this Knight of... no, this Knight. This is the Six of Wands. Just didn't seem to have the kind of same resonance. So the art, again, was uneven. I mean... So, kind of go through. The Scary Devil, love. I am not normally a fan of a ill-presented Hierophant because I am a 5 and so I connect with it. But I love this one. I love the Seven of Coins. Seven of Cups. It just pulled me straight into the card. It showed me everything about the card. It was great. But there you go. But then this King of Wands was kind of okay. This Queen of Wands is, yeah, right. 5 of Wands, right, 2. So these all kind of work. But when this deck hit, it hit hard. Yeah, that's fine. I really did like this 8 of Swords because that really fit. But then again here, this 7 of Swords is kind of lame. It just didn't go very far. I did like this 5 of Swords for defeat. And again, and Tower was kind of weak. But the Star card is really, really good. The Hermit's okay. So this deck was really good. And I do like it. I'm a fan even of this Wheel and this Sun. So this was the deck of Revelation. So I'm just gonna kind of go. I love this 3 of Swords. It's amazing. This 4 of Swords is not the Rest or Recuperation, but I really, really liked it. The Lovers is great. The 8 of Swords is fine, and the Empress is off. It's weird. I'm trying to find the alphabet card. How about this for the 5 of Pentacles? Perfect kind of lunacy and kind of crazy. I mean, and I'm even a fan of this Ace of Wands. It connects. Fat and Happy. 9 of Cups. Fat and Happy card, and that's fine. And then we have Alphaba. So, and the Spoon's good too. So that's the Tarot Revelation. So I use this so much. This was the only deck I really had any success at trimming. That's not true. Because this and the World Spirit. Trimming and using a black Sharpie just to edge. But that was it. And this made it just the perfect size. Again, I love these backs. So those 3 kind of go together, right? Because I got these all in, I would say, mid-2000s, like 2005. This has been about 2007. These all kind of came in at about the same time and really kind of showed me another area. And these were the ones there was a time when I was taking a tarot class and teaching tarot class that these represent that time in my life. So that was really, really cool. Yeah. I have said before on this channel that whenever I was learning tarot, one thing that was very instrumental in my tarot education was the Tarot Connection podcast by Lisa Fallow, which was amazing and awesome. One thing that she did, she introduced me to the world of Tarot Marketing. And this is the legacy of the Divine Tarot. This was my pre-order from Amazon, so let's know how old this deck is. This, I got this because I couldn't get the Tarot Dreams. And I wasn't a fan of the Gilded Tarot. One of my friends, she learned on the Gilded and so spoke so highly of it. It's like, oh, I'll go look at it. And it wasn't a big deal. But when this came out, I absorbed this deck. I loved the guidebook and how it presented kind of an alternate story to tarot, which I love. And from that moment on, I really have loved narrative tarots where you have a tarot deck that tells a story within the images. Again, this is not a deck that anyone needs to see. I'm not super huge fan of Faith as the 5, but 5th strong, but it's good. It's fine. And yeah, I mean, y'all have seen this deck. So this, this is back when I still love the Wailing card deck. This one's a little bit thicker, but just just holding this deck, it makes me feel warm and at peace with the world and that everything's all right. Now, it's not because these decks give me necessarily happy, fuzzy bunny hug deck kind of readings, but it's because these have stood the test of time, and I think that's one of the things when we talk about what the classic decks, or your classic decks, is the ones that have stood the test of time, and these definitely have. The Queen of Wands, is an award-winning piece of art that Jeremiah Caddy did. And I just love the whole story about how she was a dancer and he found her. She's Colombian and asked her to to sit for him while he crafted her image, and how he gave her a deck and just kind of showed her that that he wasn't a lunatic, and just that fierceness of it, and the fact that this isn't in every Queen of Wands of his retrospective decks, like his Encore and the retrospective. It just shocked me because I think probably if there was a single Chair Marchetti image that I love the most, it's this Queen of Wands. And I mean, he has a lot of beautiful ones, but that's her. Yeah, I might be a little in love with her, and have been for 15 years. No, it's probably been long. However long this deck's been out. So I got that deck, and I would say about the same time, I got the Mystic Faerie Tarot. This is my OG copy, and when we talk about kind of like groups, I'll talk about how I was going to talk about these decks in groups. This and the Legacy of the Divine Tarot are kind of narrative decks. This is definitely a narrative deck where each of the minor suits tell a story, and I love it. Linda Ravenscroft is the artist. Again, I kind of followed this deck a little bit before it got published, so when I pre-ordered it, and it's kind of amazing to say I pre-ordered decks that have been out for so long, but I did. And I just love this. I love this artwork. It does lean a little pro women, which is fine. But I love the borders, and I love everything about it. I know that in a couple of my readings, I would actually talk about how the story of the suit influenced how I interpreted the reading. Here again, here I like this Eight of Wands, which is different than normally the Eight of Wands are coming down. These are going up. It stops with the dragon. It's good. So the cards are also, the Strength card is amazing. The World is good. I keep all the extra cards in. I just do. The Tower card. I am looking for the Sun and Moon. Y'all you've seen these decks. You don't need me to show. The Magician, I love the cards. Love the Death card. Love the Empress card. Judgment is great too. Love this Ace of Wands. This is the Arthur Weasley card. Now, granted, I had this deck before Harry Potter came out, but ever since I read Harry Potter and I had this deck out at one point, I thought that's Arthur Weasley. It is. The Lovers is great. I love the Sun. Oh, where's the Moon? Where's the Moon? Come on, Moon card. There she is. I love how these go together, and I love the look on this Moon card. I love how she is tempestuous and she is moody and just the Hang Fei. It's great. So this is a good deck. It's still in print. It is now out in a borderless copy, and I've thought about getting it, but I haven't because this is great. So this isn't one I use a whole lot anymore. But I got it out a couple days ago just because I needed a friend, and this is awesome. So that is the Mystical Faerie Tarot. Cool. So two more decks I'm gonna talk about, and these are the last ones that came out. The Paulina Tarot. I don't know if I'm getting my ankle right. Sorry. A lot of the Phantasma tarots have been shown around a lot. The Spirit Song, and a couple of other decks. This was the first one, and this is the one I got, and this is the only one I have. And I love it. So I'm in the box, because I love deck boxes. I love these bags. And when I look at her other decks, none of them seem to have the contrast and they all seem a little more washed out. But I love this one. I love this card talk. This is when I think this was printed in China. Yeah, this is printed in China. So it's got the thicker card talk. It's matte US Games kind of got their stuff together. And this was one of the first decks. It's Rider-Waite Smith, but it took me to another place. It really got me into my intuition. It really got me into going beyond what the images were. And I got this one. I was probably in reading tarot probably 6 or 7 years or so. Yeah. And I'd gone past the basics. I kind of really got into it. And this is when it really started like, oh, I can use this. And the images started influencing where I was getting my messages from and things like that. And more than just the words, like the keywords and what the cards meant, it really taught me how a reading would have a feeling to it. So again, I did use these a lot for my online readings, my email readings, and I just love these images. And so every time I look at like the Joie de Vivre and some of the other decks that she's done, I keep thinking, oh, is this the next one? And the answer is always no. Because this is it. And that's really strange for me, right? Because I'm a huge deck collector. I have a huge collection. And so I was like, but why wouldn't I collect all her? Because I get an artist normally, and I buy everything. You know, I'll just get literally everything. But for her, this is it. This is the one and only. And I love this deck. And this is one of my classics. The Paulina Tarot. And then finally, the last one I kind of want to show is this is the. It's gonna be gone. Shadowscapes. Thank you. Again, everything you've heard about this deck is true. The images are too small, but the colors are too beautiful. Yada yada yada. I used this deck so much when it first came out. So much so that I fell in love with it. And so yes, so the images are too small, but the deck creator Stephanie had coffee table books made from her art that were huge. I mean, like huge. So I got those, and I used those to study with and learn. So I know what these images look inside and out. I got a set of the court card Prince and the Ace, the one suit. Hey, so the Shadowscapes deck is one of my classics. So these are the 11 I got. One thing that really stood out to me is that none of these are independent decks. These are all mass market. And at this point, these are all mass market decks that are still available. That was also really important too. And with the exception of, like I said, like 2 of the decks, I have 1 working copies of them, and I don't have backups. And so yeah, so I was like, that was it. And so this whole idea that you have to have backups, which I have fallen prey to, absolutely. Specifically, like the Deviant Moon, where I have 3 different copies of it, which is a great deck, which I love it, and it could have been on this list because that was the first tarot deck that ever appeared in my dreams. I don't need backup. Backup decks don't read the same as the original. So that's it. I hope you liked it. Just want to drop this by. Just kind of a little bit more of a conversational text. So thanks for being here. See you next time.